I hope you guys are ready for all this, because it's a lot. Hello everyone, it's Madison or Dandelion here. Today we are doing the long-awaited, much-anticipated altar tour. So I'm going to tour basically my whole spiritual area that you see behind me. So I do have some other altars throughout my home. Maybe I'll show those in separate videos at some point. I showed my Aphrodite altar, which is in my bathroom, in my last video, so if you want to check that out, that'll be linked above and in the Dropbox. But if you go to my channel, it's the most recent video before this one. So I've shown that altar already. I also have an outside altar in my backyard that's for the the fairies. So that's not going to be shown in this video. My altar is going through a bit of a renovation, so maybe I'll make a video about that once I have all of the items that I'm going to be adding to that altar. We can put that altar together all together. Hang on. Take a sip of your billionaire tears. Thank you, Elizabeth Warren. And then I also have a couple other altars throughout my house. I'm in the process of setting up an altar to St. Francis in my downstairs in my house. That's not there yet, it's in the works. So I'm going to be showing you guys this whole corner that you see behind me. This is my bedroom that we are in. And this whole corner of the room I have dedicated to spiritual work. But we're going to be talking about this whole corner that you see behind me in this video. And this whole cabinet right here that's slightly out of frame, I'm going to be going through that as well so you guys can understand what I have in there. I also have a basket, a large basket that I got from an estate sale that's out of frame over here past this little cabinety thing that you see here, this cart. So we're going to go through that basket a little bit too, just so you guys can see every single one of my spiritual tools and spiritual items and things like that. And I want to clarify before we start that this is okay with all of my deities, with all the energy beings that I work with. I asked each and every one of them if they were okay with being filmed so closely. They all said yes. I've talked about this in previous videos, especially my recent videos. But, you know, for a long time, and I think a lot of people feel this way, but for a long time I also felt that I couldn't have anybody seeing my altar or my spiritual space or my spiritual practice or anything about my spirituality. I felt very secretive about it and very, I just didn't want anyone to witness anything. I just wanted to keep it all for myself. And I thought that was for a lot of reasons. I thought it was ethically what was correct. I thought it was what I was taught, that all your magic and all your spirituality has to be a secret. And I do still feel that the spells that one works on and things like that should be secret. I think that it limits their power when you talk about it openly. If we understand the laws of the universe, we can see how telling a bunch of people, oh, I'm doing this spell, can negatively impact the effects of the spell, the power of the spell. So I do still believe that. And a lot of that is stuff I've learned as a Reiki master. Part of becoming a Reiki master is learning about manifestation, how to manifest things, and how to have more successful magical workings and things. So I do still believe all of that, but when it comes to something like my spiritual space and my altar, I have no problem showing people. I think that, and again, this is something I've talked about in recent videos, but I think that part of my purpose in this incarnation is to uncloak all of this stuff. So when I first started my channel, I was calling a part of the series on my channel about Wicca Uncloaked. I stopped doing that, but that was partially why I called it Uncloaked, is because that feels like my purpose a lot in this life, is to take all of this out of the shadow and show everyone and invite you to join in it. So that's why I don't feel nervous about showing you guys this stuff or weird about showing you guys this stuff. I feel comfortable doing it they feel comfortable doing it. And again, this is something I've talked about in previous videos, but I feel very strongly that a lot of my work on the internet sharing my spiritual practice, and Giles is here, a lot of my work showing my spiritual practice on the internet is something that I found myself doing not only because I wanted to provide education for people who are looking to learn about Wicca, learn about witchcraft, learn about whatever form of paganism and spirituality that's normally really hard to learn about. I wanted to uncloak that, but also because I feel very strongly that the energy beings I work with, the deities I work with, they want me to bring their followers to them. They want me to show everyone, you could be doing this too, and here's why it's helpful, here's why it's beautiful, here's why it's lovely, here's what you get out of it, and here's what they get out of it, and here's how it enhances your life. So that's another reason why I don't feel weird about it. They want me to do it. It's, for me, a large part of the videos I make and the ways I'm active spiritually on the internet is offering to my deities. So I'm doing it to get the word out about them and about spiritual work. I think if more people had a healthy relationship with faith, and I say a healthy relationship with faith and spirituality, the world would be a better place. So that's part of my mission, and that's why I'm comfortable showing you guys all this stuff. So if you're not comfortable showing people your spiritual stuff, your altar, that's totally fine. Everybody should do what makes them feel comfortable and what they want to do. So don't be sending hate to me for showing my altar. It's what feels comfortable for me. I'm not going to come at you for what feels comfortable to you. So if you don't like the idea of me sharing my altar, that's not my problem. That's a you problem. So if you comment it, I don't care. So don't even waste your time with your little tippy-tappy fingers. Just move along. Okay, so that being said, this is going to be a long video, I feel. Because like I said, there's a lot going on. I've accumulated a lot. It's not even all in frame. It goes up the wall, it goes that way. So buckle up, kids. Oh, also, if you didn't see, I recently posted in the community tab of my channel a question for you all. I said, I'm looking for a name that I can call all of you guys, my subscribers, my followers, this little community that we have. I'm looking for a quick little name that I can address you guys as, because I'm sick of just saying hi everyone and not knowing how to address you guys. So I asked everybody to kind of chime in, and if they had any ideas for what we should call our little community, to comment them. And we got a couple ideas there. One of them was seedlings, which I did like, and I do like quite a bit. I don't know if it's exactly our winner. Everybody chime in the comments to let me know if you have other ideas or if you like this idea. But one person said seedlings, which I liked, and they were playing on, my spiritual name being Dandelion, so I could call you guys my seedlings. So do you guys want to be like Dandelion seedlings, or do you guys have a different idea for what we could call ourselves? Because in theory, I could start the video with hello seedlings, but yeah, I don't know. So let me know in the comments what you think. Go to the community tab, comment on that post your idea if you have an idea, because I really need some way of addressing you guys that's easy and quick and succinct. So yeah, that's that. So let's get into the video, the tour. That's gonna take 50 years. So first thing you see behind me is this big table. So this is my main altar. Anytime I do a spiritual working, this is where I am, unless I'm outside. I'm either here or outside. Those are the only two places I really do spiritual work. I don't even know where to begin with all of this. So this is my main altar, this big table. You'll see on top of it, I have another smaller table. When I first started my practice, all I had was this small wooden table. So my altar used to be this small. So this shows you how I've evolved and grown, literally, not just spiritually and energetically, but literally grown. So my altar used to just be this small wooden table, and that was it. So I later got this table underneath, and I added this table that I originally had on top to kind of have a two-level situation. So I got this bottom table from IKEA. I got it years ago. I think I've had this table for like 5 years. It's sturdy, she's good. I don't see any reason to replace her. And I got it discounted because it wobbles. One of the legs is not the same length as the other 3, so I easily fixed that just by putting a wadded up piece of paper, I'm pretty sure I did, under the leg that's too short, and I got it for like half of its actual price. So IKEA's already cheap, and then I went to the IKEA store and they had this little discounted area because all the items in that area are messed up in some kind of way. They're non-functional in some sort of way. So I got this super cheap at IKEA, and it's getting the job done. It's been getting the job done for years. The way I organize my altar, and again, remember, everybody's different, but the way I organize my altar is I have goddess on the right side of my altar and God on the left side of my altar. And that's if you're looking at my altar. If you're the altar itself, then it's the opposite. But if you're looking at my altar, I have goddess on the right and God on the left. So my feminine energy is on the right and my masculine energy is on the left. On the right, I have my more what I view as feminine tools. So again, some of these are different than things you'd see in books. This is just how I feel it should be arranged for me personally. So this is what I feel comfortable with. Again, remember, you might feel differently. Nothing wrong with that. It's the beautiful of being Wiccan or pagan or whatever it is. There are no strict rules other than don't harm anyone. So starting in the back, I've got this large sistrum rattle. So this sistrum is dedicated to Bastet, and it actually came to me from Egypt, and it is so beautiful and it makes the most beautiful sound. I use that whenever I'm working with Bast to honor her and channel her and invite her into the space. Sometimes I play it as offering to Bast, but that's in the back and that's on the feminine side because it's associated with Bastet. And then I have this large pillar candle. It's a beeswax candle, comes from a sustainable farm where the bees are treated very well, and it's in a little rainbow candle holder that I've had for years. I do not know where I got it, but I've literally had it since I was a teenager. I think it followed me from my parents' house to all the way to California. So I've had that for a really long time, and that's my goddess candle. So anytime I evoke goddess or invoke goddess, I light that candle. So that's my goddess candle. And then continuing on this side, I've got this gold bell. I view the bell as a feminine instrument. The next thing is my amethyst crystal ball, which I have in a little wooden stand. And this is just a small crystal ball. I use this for crystal gazing. I use it for divination, for scrying. And then I have my small cauldron. I have a bigger cauldron that I'll show you guys in a minute that I use for bigger projects and rituals and spells. But this is my small cauldron. She gets the job done. She's great for burning little things. And I view the cauldron as a feminine object. Most people do, as the cauldron is a vessel for creation and destruction, just like women are a vessel for creation and destruction. So this is kind of a representation of the womb, this cauldron. And then I have some mala beads. So these green ones, I believe they're aventurine, but I'll have to check. But these are prayer beads, so they have the pentacle on them and then the tree of life on the other side. And I like to, whenever I travel, I bring these beads with me. I also like to use these beads a lot and hold them when I meditate or when I pray. And they have 3 sets of 3 beads, so that's again to acknowledge the law of 3s and the circle of life, life, death, rebirth, mother, maiden, crone, you know, all the 3s, and the threefold law of, you know, everything you put out comes back to you threefold. So that's what these beads represent. I use them a lot in prayer and meditation. And they're also really good for me when I'm feeling stressed. I like to hold them and kind of fidget with them. And then I have these mala beads. I got these a few years ago. And they are so gorgeous. I can't remember what the crystals are, but I'll wear these basically a lot when I channel feminine energy, and I will wear these a lot when I do healing work, or sometimes I wear them for sleep work. Sometimes I wear them when I teach. So sometimes I just feel compelled to put these on. Again, I don't know what the crystals are that are on them. I can't remember. So if you can tell from looking at these, drop it in the comments. But yeah, I wear these quite a lot. I find them very calming and soothing to wear, and they're just gorgeous. Then you'll see I also have scattered around the whole altar dried flower petals. This is for spring, so every season I change up my altar a little bit. I'll change the scarf that I have on it. I'll change any little decor items I have on it. So sometimes instead of flower petals, it's pine cones or many other things. So I like to incorporate dried flowers, especially this time of year on my altar. So you'll see a lot of petals scattered throughout. And then I have these smaller candles. These are yellow right now, again for the theme of spring. So I have light kind of pastel colors on my altar right now to signify spring and Ostara and Beltane. This is another goddess candle. It's in a little holder that has a goddess symbol on it. And this is again just another candle that I can use to evoke or invoke goddess energy. So I'll use the smaller candle when I'm not wanting to burn my bigger candles. I use the bigger candles on the Sabbats and the Esbats. I use the bigger candles on the dark moon, full moon, any kind of bigger spiritual Wiccan event. That's when I use the big pillar candles. And otherwise, if I'm just doing a daily prayer, meditation, something quick with goddess energy, then I will use the smaller candles. And then you'll also see I have a couple quartz points scattered around the altar. These are just little quartz points that I like to use to amplify the energy of any of the spiritual workings that I perform. And those are scattered around because quartz goes good with anything. So those are around my whole altar. A few on the goddess side and a few on the god side. And it's important to note with the flower petals that I have and the dried flowers I never pick anything off of a plant. I only bring in to my altar things that have fallen off of plants naturally. That's just, again, my own practice. Not saying that, if you pick something off of a plant, you're doing something horrible. That's just me. I don't like to pick things off of plants. I just like to grab what's on the ground. And then you'll also see on my goddess side, but close to the middle, which I view as kind of neutral territory, is a bowl of salt. So this is for protection, purification. I use the salt to ward off any negativity in my spiritual space, in my sacred space. This is where I do all my magical workings. So the salt helps to ensure that the space is clear energetically, protected from any chaotic or shadow beings that would want to cause chaos or mayhem, keeps my intention clear, keeps anything chaotic from coming in and messing anything up. So that's why I have this bowl of salt here. I got this bowl years ago, and again, like a lot of the stuff that I have, I do not remember where I got it. I started accumulating these objects when I was 18, 17. So it's been a long time, and I can't remember where I got a lot of these things. If I do remember specifically where I got a certain thing, I will tell you guys, but I'm really sorry. A lot of the time I don't know. I would highly recommend going to thrift stores, estate sales, especially on the last day of an estate sale. You can get some amazing stuff, some rare stuff, cheap. So check that stuff out. But a lot of this stuff comes from random witchy shops that I've found in person or online. They come from, like I said, estate sales, thrift stores. So just search around and you'll find what you need. If you're spiritually needing a certain tool, then it will find its way to you if you put the effort in to look for it. And then moving to the left side of my altar, so the God side. You guys don't get to see this side that much because I'm usually sitting in front of it. But on this side, I have all my spiritual tools that I view as masculine. So first we have, like we talked about on the other side, a pillar candle for God. So this is a candle that I use just the same way as I use the other one that's on the goddess side. So I use this candle on major Wiccan holidays, major Wiccan days of power to evoke or invoke God energy, whichever kind of ceremony I'm doing. Sometimes I'm invoking, sometimes I'm evoking. So this is, again, just like the other one, a beeswax candle. again from a sustainable farm. The candle holder is exactly the same as the other one. Again, I don't know where I got it. These candle holders have a lot of wax dripping down them, and the wax is in multiple different colors. That's because I used to have candles in them that were rainbow, and as they dripped, the rainbow color kind of got everywhere, and now they're, in my opinion, gorgeous. So that's the color you see dripped on the pillar candle holders. And then behind this candle on the masculine side, I have a little container, a little jar that has a cork, and in that are eggshells, so crushed up eggshells. These eggshells come from eggs that are from a sustainable farm with happy chicks, but I don't necessarily keep this on the masculine side because I view it as masculine. It is kind of the only place that it fit, and it's a pretty container, so I wanted to have it visible, and also it's right near my Hekate altar, so once we talk about the Hekate altar, which is right here, you'll see how it's kind of right near it, but it didn't fit on the Hekate spot, so I just kind of put it near it on the masculine side of my altar. So it's not necessarily there because it's associated with masculine energy. If anything, it's associated with goddess energy and feminine energy, but it didn't fit anywhere else, and I don't think Anubis minds. So I put it there. And then you'll see, just like on the other side with the goddess side, here we have another little small yellow pillar candle, and this candle is held by a small holder that has stars on it. So it's blue and it's got gold stars on it. And I put these on the god side because my other little candle holders have goddess symbols on them. So I use these ones for the god side, and again, a yellow candle to signify spring. So just like on the other side, I use these smaller pillar candles to evoke or invoke god energy for smaller little things. So I don't always use the big candles. I save the big candles for bigger things. And again, some quartz points scattered throughout, and more dried flowers. And then I also have a shell, and these are shells that I see everywhere. They're pretty widespread in stores and things, metaphysical shops, but it's just a little shell that I use for burning things. So I have this on the god side because it's more representative of air, which I view as a more masculine energy. And in it, I just have a cedar bundle that has seen better days. It is almost burned down to nothing but ash, but I've got a cedar bundle in there. I think I also have some ash from some other herbs that I've burned and other things. So that's just where I burn bundles of herbs and things for specifically clearing the space, cleansing the space. And then I have a wand. Wands are very useful in spiritual practice for directing energy, and a lot of people you'll see have fancy wands or beautiful wands. My wand is just a branch that fell from a tree one windstorm. So I just immediately saw it and it was perfectly wand shaped, and I just felt like it was meant to be my wand. So that's the wand I have on my altar, and again, that's on my masculine side of my altar. And then I have an athame. This athame is something that I got recently. I got this one over the holidays for Yule. This is beautiful. I think I got it from a small shop she makes the athames. So if I can find that shop, I'll link it down below. But again, that's on my masculine side of my altar. And you can use the athame for a lot of things. I use it for, again, directing energy. You can kind of use it like a wand. And you can also use it for carving things into candles. You can really use the athame for so many things. And then I have my incense burner, which again, you guys have seen every time I clean my altar, my incense burner is disgusting mess covered in ash. So, I have my incense burner on the god side, and then I have my chalice on the god side as well. This is again something you guys don't see much because I'm usually sitting in front of it, but this is a recent purchase also. I used to have a different one, but that one was getting a little bit grimy. So I got this new one, kind of a brassy gold chalice, and it's so gorgeous. But I use this for offering, for ritual, and again, this is on the masculine side. And then moving into the center part of this bottom table of my altar, this, like I said, is my work surface. So I leave this center area open for either spells, objects for spells to be laid out, or for my journals, my mirror book, my calendars, my planners, things like that. So this is always changing, this middle part, depending on what I've got going on. So right now I've got my day planner and my journal here. And then here I have my mirror book And then underneath that is my planetary calendar for 2022. And then underneath this small table that I've set on top of the base table is where I keep ongoing spells that I need to not put away because they're not done, but I need to move them out of the way so I can do other things when they're kind of dormant. So I'm not going to talk too much about what I have under this table because, again, like I said, I like to keep my magical workings secretive because it protects their power. But underneath here I have, on the left side here are objects that have to do with the ceremonies I perform every full moon. So basically every year I set goals, intentions for what I want to happen that year in any kind of way. So within myself, in the physical material world, in my work, in my life, in my personal life, in my relationships, in my relationship with myself, in my relationship with spirituality, I write all these things down every single year on a piece of paper. And then throughout that year, every single full moon, I remind myself of what's written on that paper and I burn a candle every single full moon to power those intentions. So that's what is on the left side, is the tools and the objects from that. And that's an ongoing thing. So every full moon I pull it out, and after the full moon's done, I put it back, and then same for the next full moon, and onward and onward and onward. And then on the right side is a spell that I've been working on for a while to help my cats get along. Now moving on to the small table up top. In the center you'll see a tile, a pentacle tile. This is standard Wiccan practice with an altar, is to have a pentacle tile in the center of your altar. This represents the 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, spirit. Just beyond that, behind it, you'll see a candle holder and a candle. The candle in it is a frankincense candle, and this is the candle that I use to call on what we call in the Akashic Records our guardians, teachers, and loved ones. So this is kind of my anyone and everyone candle, basically. I'll light that candle to call on my spirit guides. I'll light that candle to call on any light beings that want to be present for anything that I'm doing. So this is kind of my go-to center candle that tells my deities, my guardians, my spirit guides, I'm doing a magical working. Be present if you wish. So it's not affiliated with God or goddess. It's for everyone. And you'll see there a bell. I found this bell on the ground. I think it might be from a cat toy, and one of my cats must have gotten it off at some point. But I just found it on the ground one day in my house, and I was like, bells are helpful for spiritual practice. So I added it to kind of intensify the energy of the candle. And then behind that is a jar of water. I always have water in some form on my altar. Water is said to be a place that spirits and energy beings can enter the space through. Water is a container for energy, and when you have an open container of water, bowl, jar of water, then when you call on beings, they can enter that water and reside in the space with you through the water. Water is an information carrier, and water is also very cleansing. So it also acts as kind of a purification hub, kind of similar to the bowl of salt that I have on my altar. This water acts as a place where negative energy can enter and be transmuted into chargeless energy. So it serves that purpose, but it also serves as a vehicle for energy beings to enter the space. And this water specifically is full moon rainwater. So this is water that I collected during a rainstorm that was on the full moon. So I put the bowl out in the morning when it started to rain. I left it out all day. It collected and filled the bowl with water, with rainwater. And then I left it out overnight as the rain continued, and it charged under the full moon. So this water is very powerful. It's not only cleansing and purifying because of the rain energy that it has, but it is also charged with the power of the full moon. So I change that water out a lot. If you go back through my videos, you'll see different jars here. So depending on what I'm working on at the time, I will change the water out. So I have waterfall water, ocean water, river water, rainwater, full moon water, new moon water, waning moon water, waxing moon water. I also have storm water from a lightning storm. So depending on what I'm doing, you'll see a different jar there with different kinds of water with different properties. And again, you'll see around this area flower petals and quartz points. And then to the left of the water is a selenite tower. So I use this again for purification and cleansing to protect from any negativity or chaos or shadow. And then to the right of that jar of water is a little canvas that I painted myself. This is a symbol that was given to me during my shamanic studies with the shaman that I apprenticed with. When I first met my power animal, she gave me a symbol to use anytime I need to call on her energy or charge something or someone or myself with the energy. I can draw this symbol energetically or physically. So I have this symbol on my altar on the goddess side of my altar, so the right side. So we're on the goddess side of this upper table right now. And the first thing is this little canvas. So again, I painted this myself. This is the symbol for my specific power animal. So I have no problem showing you guys this symbol because if one of you tried to use it, it wouldn't do anything for you because it's for my power animal. And I have behind it some dried flowers. These are flowers that were from a bouquet that was given to me at one point. So once they started to kind of die in the vase, I dangled them upside down and let them dry that way. And then I added them to my altar. So those are on the goddess side, just as decoration and just as some beauty for the goddess side of my altar. And then I have next to that little symbol from my power animal, I showed this when I cleaned my altar because I just got it for my birthday in February, but it's a little blue statue of Bastet, and this will be a part of my traveling altar, but for now I've put it there to kind of charge it with Bastet's energy and goddess energy, and it looks beautiful next to the little canvas because it matches its blue. So I added that there. And then you'll see in front of that some white feathers. So these are feathers that I've collected over time, feathers I've found on walks and runs and hikes. And then I also have in front of those some catnip that I just put out recently. I put catnip out for Bastet on her statue and next to her statue for my cats to consume when they want it and as offering to Bastet. Also next to that are some cat whiskers that I've collected over time. These are cat whiskers that I've been collecting over years and years and years of having pet cats. So cat whiskers are super helpful for spells. So whenever you find a cat whisker, if you have cats, don't be ripping things off your cats. Not cool. But whiskers will naturally fall off of your cat, just like eyelashes and things. So if you can find a cat whisker, keep it. It's great for good luck spells, prosperity and abundance spells, anything like that. Cat whiskers are so great for. So I have this little pile of cat whiskers that I've accumulated over a long time. Anytime I see one, I add it to the pile. I have another little small pillar candle. This one's white. I have the same thing on the god side. This one's in a little crescent moon candle holder. So this is again a symbol of goddess, so that's why I put it on the goddess side. And I use these candles the same way I use the little yellow pillar candles that I told you about before. Those are candles that I use when I'm just doing something small and I want goddess energy to be present for it, but I don't want to use my big main pillar candles. So that's what those are for. And then I have a couple crystals. This one on Bastet's statue at her feet is Tiger's Eye. Tiger's Eye is very strongly associated with Bastet. So I gave that crystal to her, and whenever I'm needing a little bit of extra protection, I'll grab that crystal from the altar and carry it with me for a while. And then this crystal I have here is turquoise. So I gave this to the Bastet goddess side of my altar. I did this partially because of the history of ancient Egypt. They loved turquoise and they had so many beautiful turquoise jewelry items and things. So I gave that to Bastet. And again, putting it there kind of charges it with Bastet's energy. So if I need a little bit of that energy, I will grab it from the altar and keep it on me for a while. And then I also have here on the goddess side my calligraphy pen. And this is a symbol for me of creation and the womb. So not only physical creation, but energetic creation, creativity, creating art, creating writing, work, beauty, teaching, all these things that I view as feminine. So I have this pen here. I've been learning how to use it more and more. I think I'm going to be using it a lot as I continue to work on my Book of Shadows. So I have that on the goddess side. And then, of course, on the right side, I have the statue of Bastet, which you all have seen so many times when I clean it and in every single video I make. So this statue is from a small metaphysical shop in my hometown of upstate New York. It's called Imagica, and I will link their website down below. I don't know that they have an online shop. They might, but I will link their shop down below if you're ever in the area and want to shop from them. So then moving to the left side of this upper part of the altar, so back to the god side. On this side, I have quite a few feathers that I've found. I have some parrot feathers. So here in Los Angeles, we have wild green parrots. This is from a situation that occurred where many years ago, there was a fire in a pet shop, and they basically had to just let all the birds out to save them. So they just opened the gates and let the birds fly because they were going to die otherwise. So all these green parrots got let out in Pasadena. And so now in the whole east side of Los Angeles, we have wild green parrots. And almost every single morning you can hear them squawking and talking to each other and flying around. And they're very active in my neighborhood that I live in. And occasionally I'll find a parrot feather on the ground. So these are so beautiful and so rare. And I'm so thankful to have found them on my own. So I put them in a place of prominence on my altar to display them. And I also have some black and white feathers that I found, and a couple of them have some blood on them. They have some, it's almost like when the feather got ripped out of the bird, it ripped it out so deep that the whole follicle kind of came out. It's like when you rip a hair out and it gets ripped out so deeply that there's some blood on the end of the hair follicle. That's kind of what these feathers are like. So I picked them up very carefully, careful not to touch the blood. And I never, as soon as I got home, I washed my hands and things. I don't touch them much because I don't know what a bird could have had or anything, but I gave them to Anubis, as he is a deity that has a lot to do with death. So since they have a little bit of blood on them, I gave them to Anubis. And again, them being black and white, they're very gorgeous. And I also view that as kind of a symbol of liminal space and binary black, white, life, death. So I gave those to Anubis. I also have another little incense burner here that is next to Anubis. So I have a lot of different ways of burning herbs and incense and things on this left side of my altar, as I view air as a masculine element. And then I also have behind that a very old, from my teenage life, a salt cube that was in my bunny's cage when I was a teenager. So I have this little thing from her cage to remind me of her and keep her with me. And also I give it to Anubis, as again, he's a deity of death and rebirth after death into the afterlife. So I gave Anubis her little chewing block that she would use to keep her teeth trimmed and sharp. And then some more dried flowers over here also. And the dried flowers on Anubis's side have some extra meaning because not only are they beautiful and they represent spring, but they're also dead, dried flowers. So this again is a strong symbol of Anubis and the powers that Anubis has. And then I have another little white pillar candle. Same thing as before with all my little pillar candles. I use that when I want to bring in God energy, but it's not necessarily a holiday or a big day of power. I also have a little scarab beetle that I gave to Anubis. This is again another strong symbol of ancient Egypt. I went to the Science Center here in Los Angeles when the King Tut exhibit was here. I went and saw it 2 times. And one of the times I was there, I got this little scarab beetle. So I added that to the Anubis side of the altar. And then I also have a little scarab ring. I got this scarab ring online from a person who was selling it secondhand. They had had it for years and they were getting rid of it. So I'm pretty sure so I bought it from Egypt and it is beautiful, but unfortunately it is too big for every single one of my fingers. So I can't wear it, which is disappointing. I could put it on like a chain and wear it as a necklace maybe, but it's so beautiful and I just gave it to Anubis since I can't wear it. And then, of course, the statue of Anubis. I got this at the same time and at the same store, Imagica in upstate New York, that I did the Bastet statue. So I bought them both at the same time. So now moving on to the wall. So in the center, you'll see I have an ankh. This is a symbol of eternal life. So I have it on the wall in a place of prominence where I always see it. I also have dangling right there a necklace that is of the green man. So this honors my Celtic roots, but it also honors my Wiccan belief and my following of the earth and nature. So I have both those things hanging. And then you'll see next to Anubis, I have a Polaroid picture of my sister's dog Venus, who I live with. So that's a pet of mine that I put on the wall next to Anubis as a way of connecting her even more strongly with Anubis. All my pets I view in some way as a familiar or as a being that aids in my spiritual practice. So Venus helps me a lot with not only my practice with Hekate, but also with Anubis. So Anubis and Hekate are both strongly connected to dogs. So sometimes I'll receive messages through Venus from Anubis or Hekate, and I'll give a lot of offering via Venus to Anubis or Hekate. Like for Deipnon, you've probably seen, if you've seen my Deipnon videos, you'll see a lot of the time I will give dog hair, so I'll give any shed that's come off of my dog to Hekate, so that's a form of offering that Venus helps me with. I'll play with Venus as offering to Anubis or Hekate or both. So I put that picture up to not only ask Anubis and Hekate to watch over and protect Venus, but also to show that things I do with Venus and for Venus are also for Anubis and Hekate. And then on the right side, on the feminine side again, you'll see I have more Polaroid pictures. These are of my cats. So these are the 3 cats that live with me here in my house. I also have cats in my childhood home where my mother lives that are cats that I've had for a long time that I love, and I view them as my cats also, but they don't live with me, so I just put the cats that live with me on the wall here next to Bastet. This is to ask Bastet to protect them, watch over them, keep them healthy, happy. And it also, again, just like with the Anubis side and the picture of my sister's dog Venus, this represents how these 3 cats are connected to Bastet, and things I do for and with these 3 cats are for Bastet by extension. And then next to those things, I have a couple decorative items. On the one side, I have a little kind of embroidered tapestry, I guess you could say, and it is so beautiful. Again, I don't know where I got it. I picked it up at a metaphysical shop one day years ago, but it's so beautiful. It has kind of the cycle of the year, the wheel of the year on it. It has the symbols of the elements on it. It's just so, so gorgeous, and it represents that Wiccan's wheel of the year. And then on the other side of the Polaroid pictures of my cats, I have a pentacle with some bells dangling from it. So this is a beautiful decorative piece, but it's also, again, like I said, bells raise the energy of a space. So I will kind of give those bells a tap anytime I'm wanting to intensify the energy of a working that I'm doing. And then moving up the wall, I've got some just purely decorative pieces, and I'm looking to add even more to the wall. I'm a maximalist, so I'm trying to fill the wall completely, slowly but surely. So this one piece is just a beautiful piece of art that is a circle of mushrooms and the moon looking down. So kind of just a goddess symbol, but also just a general pagan, beautiful piece of art. And then I also have above that a wood carving. This has the tree of life on it, but also a pentacle. So again, representing earth, air, fire, water, spirit, and also representing the tree of life. And then to the right, I have a beautiful piece of embroidery that my sister got me for my birthday a couple years ago. And this is just, it matches the space in the room and brings a bit of beauty to the altar. So this is just flowers, leaves, vines. So moving on to the altars that you don't often get to see, especially up close, the altars that are in this corner here and the altars that are above out of frame. So starting from the bottom and working our way up, first altar we're going to look at is my Hekate altar. And again, you'll have to excuse some of the messiness on these altars. I use them a lot. So on this Hekate altar, I have a lot of objects. First, of course, is the beautiful statue of Hekate that I have. It shows Hekate's connection to dogs, but also Hekate's connection to crows. I also have a candle that I use anytime I work with Hekate. If I perform Deipnon at my altar, I will light that candle to inform her that I'm performing Deipnon, and when I am done and I leave the offering and I say, "This offering is for you, come take it," I'll extinguish the candle and leave the room. I also have another pentacle tile in front of Hekate. This just again signifies earth, air, fire, water, spirit, and it's a symbol of Wiccan practice, witchcraft practice. I also have a seal of protection for Hekate. So this is Hekate's specific seal of protection. So this asks Hekate to protect me and watch over me, and I have that there. That piece of paper is actually from the first time I ever worked with Hekate. So it is old, and you can tell. It's ripped up a little bit. I think I've accidentally burnt the corners a couple times, but I've been meaning to embroider a nice new one, so hopefully that'll be happening soon and you'll see that get put up. I also have a little crystal statue of a crow. This is something that I picked up from a store a few years ago, and I added it to Hekate's altar because of her association with crows. So I've got a little statue of a crow there, and this is made out of crystal. I'm pretty sure it's made out of onyx, but I will check to make sure that is right. A lot of feathers on my Hekate altar, especially black feathers, especially crow feathers. Not all these feathers are crow feathers. Some of them are just beautiful jet black feathers that I wanted to give her because they were in such good condition. I also have a little crystal skull. Again, I don't remember what kind of crystal this is. If you know, drop it in the comments. The skull represents Hekate's association with death and liminal space, the in-betweens, and her ability to travel through all realms. So that's why the skull is there. I also have on Hekate's altar 3 dice. This represents Hekate's strong witchcraft abilities, divination abilities, magic abilities. And these dice are vintage dice that I got at an estate sale. They came in like a very old looking, kind of 60s looking dice package. And then I have some dried flower petals. Just like a lot of areas of my altar, I love to utilize dried flowers, especially on the parts of my altar where the deity represents death. And then I have it's meant to be an incense burner, but I just use it as decoration, a little plaque of the Magician tarot card. This again represents Hekate's strong magical and witchcraft abilities. I hung a little bit of dried flowers, and they used to look much more full before they dried out, so it's probably time for me to add some new ones, but those have dried out. Next to that, hanging on the wall, a little piece of art that is a crow, and that so perfectly aligned with Hekate's altar, so I hung it next to her. Then moving up to the next altar that's in this corner. So we're at this one right now. This altar is dedicated to Sekhmet. So for this altar, I do a lot of healing and protection work with Sekhmet. So on it, first thing is, of course, the statue of Sekhmet. Gorgeous statue of her. I don't remember where I got it. Sometimes when it's late at night and it's dark in my room and I have her candle lit, the shadow that she casts is so intimidatingly beautiful. Some dried flowers with her also. These are yellow roses that have dried out. These were from a bouquet that I received a while back, and when they started to die, I dried them out and gave them to Sekhmet. Yellow is a color that is strongly associated with healing, so I gave those to her to honor her and honor her healing abilities. I also have a wand up there. This is a Reiki chakra wand, so it has 7 crystals on it. Each one corresponds to each of the 7 chakras. So I like to use this wand a lot in my healing practices with myself and with other people, with clients. So this wand is very good at balancing and aligning the chakras and the energy field of a person. So I give that to Sekhmet to charge with her healing energy and her healing power, and have her watch over this spiritual tool. I also have with Sekhmet my packs of Reiki crystals. So these are crystals that, again, similar to the wand, are associated with each of the chakras. So there's 7 crystals in each of these little bags, and I can lay them on the chakras accordingly, on myself or on a client that comes to me for a healing to help align their chakra field. She also has on her altar a little pouch that is a necklace. This pouch is something that I put on anytime I do Reiki. Anytime I'm performing a healing, shamanic Reiki healing, I'm wearing this pouch. This is a pouch that I picked up at a metaphysical store years and years ago here in LA, and it holds inside of it a crystal that I received from the first Reiki master I ever learned from. She gave me this crystal. It's a rose quartz egg. So she gave this to me when I finished my Reiki studies with her. She gave it to me at the end of class, and it's kind of become my Reiki crystal. It represents my healing and my ability to heal others. So I always keep it in that pouch, and I wear that pouch anytime I'm performing a healing. In that pouch is also a small white feather. This is the first white feather I ever found, and it's seen better days, so I probably won't show it. But it's in there to represent my evolution as a healer and as a spiritual worker. But Sekhmet watches over that for me, so she holds all my strongest healing tools. And when I go to perform a healing on myself or someone else, I will grab them from her altar and thank her for watching over them and charging them for me. Next, I have a little gold candle holder, and in it is a black candle. That black candle is for protection. So again, Sekhmet's not only a strong healer, but a strong protector. So Sekhmet, I have a video on Sekhmet if you want to check that out. Sekhmet is very motherly, and it's said that her followers, she views them as her kittens. So she's going to ferociously protect her kittens. So this candle is something that I use anytime I'm asking Sekhmet for protection. So Sekhmet's always protecting me as I work with her, but when I light this candle, it's me saying, I need some extra protection right now. So I'll light that candle a lot when I perform healings on other people to protect me from their energy field. So to protect me from picking up anything that's not mine from the client that I'm healing. I'll light that candle and have Sekhmet protect me from that. And then I have next to that another candle holder with a pillar candle that's pretty burned down, so it doesn't look too pillory anymore, but it's a purple candle. And purple is another color that signifies healing. So yellow and purple are both strongly associated with healing. And so this candle is purple, and it has the intention of being a healing candle. And I'll burn that when I'm performing a healing on myself or someone else, just to add a little bit of an extra healing intention to the session. So again, I'll light that and say, Sekhmet, please help this healing to be for the greatest and highest good for the client or for myself or whoever it is. And you can see it's dripped in this crazy, incredible way. And I made a short on my YouTube channel a while back explaining how this happened and when it happened. If you want to check that out, that'll be linked down below. But it dripped so beautifully now that I feel like I cannot move it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to break the beautiful drips. It's just so gorgeous. In that candle holder is a crystal that has gotten accidentally covered in a lot of wax. It's a red jasper crystal, and red jasper is a crystal that is strongly associated with Sekhmet. And just like with the crystals that I give to Bastet, Sekhmet charges this red jasper with her energy, and then I can grab it whenever I need a little bit of that energy and carry it with me for a while, and then I'll return it to the altar when I'm done. Also in that candle holder is a little stick of cinnamon. Burning cinnamon is great for abundance and prosperity. I keep it on Sekhmet's altar, and I will burn it occasionally for abundance and healing, abundance and protection. It smells very cinnamony, and if you've ever burned a cinnamon stick, you'll know cinnamon sticks last forever. I think I got that cinnamon stick like 2 years ago, and I'm still working on burning it. I'm not even kidding you. That's the Sekhmet altar. And to the left of it is a piece of art that has nothing to do with Sekhmet. It's just, you know, part of my maximalist journey. But it was a gift, and it's a Harry Potter quote, "You have the Grim." So it has that witchy theme, and I put it there to help fill the wall. And then moving to the top corner altar that's out of frame. You can't see it. You've never seen it before. Are you ready to see it? It is for Horus. So if you are familiar with my channel, you'll probably see that I'm constantly picking up feathers. I'm constantly researching different birds and staring at the sky during the day and the evening. And I'm a Pisces, but I have a lot of air in my chart. So I'm very naturally connected to air. I started working with Horus quite a while ago, and on Horus's altar, all I have are the best of the feathers that I've ever found. But up there I have a lot of hawk, falcon feathers, The biggest white feather that I've ever found is up there. The feathers that I use for smoke cleansing are up there. He looks over all my feathers, and he is my connection to sky and birds and air. So then moving to this altar on the wall right here, the white altar. This is where Zeus and Heracles live for me in my sacred space. In recent videos, I've talked about working with Heracles. I started working with Heracles just a few months ago, and it's been wild. He's been nuts. So on the Heracles altar, I have the statue of Heracles that I got, I'm pretty sure from Etsy, from a small shop on Etsy. And next to it, I have some crystals. Again, I'm not big into crystals, so I think I said in a recent video of mine that a lot of the time I will just put crystals places and I have no clue what they are or what they're for. I just use my intuition to feel like, okay, this should be here and this should be here and I want to use this for this and I feel like I want to carry this with me and I feel like this should be with Sekhmet. So a lot of the time, I don't even know what a crystal's for. I'll just put it somewhere. So again, if you want to identify these crystals for me, drop it in the comments. But these are all crystals that I felt Heracles wanted or liked, so I put them on his altar. And then also the crab claw that I recently found that I talked about in a video that I made recently where I was cleaning my altar. I put the crab claw with Heracles as there's a story of Heracles where he crushes a crab and wins the battle. So that is a gift from him that he gave me, that crab claw. So I put it on his altar. And then above that is his dad, Zeus. So I don't have a whole lot on my Zeus altar right now. Zeus and I are in a bit of a holding pattern. We work together a little bit, but I can feel that I haven't fully reached the time in my life where I'll be working more strongly with Zeus. I can feel it approaching, but we're not quite there yet. But I do have an incense burner for Zeus. I do feel that a lot of the time he wants me to burn some incense for him. So I do have an incense burner for him and a statue of him. But other than that, there's not much else on his altar right now. Oh my god. Giles Heracles shows up when we're talking about Heracles and Zeus. Why are you so exact? He's a magic boy. What is in your fur? So then my top highest altar is way out of frame, up high on the wall. This area is the newest part of my altar. So starting on the right side of that is my little part of my altar that I've dedicated to the Hindu god Krishna. So I've dedicated this to Lord Krishna. I am not Hindu by any means, and I would never claim to be Hindu. I became a Reiki master in January. So during those studies that I was going through in December and January, my Reiki master is Hindu. So she would talk to me a lot about Hindu practice and her Hindu practice, specifically the deities she works with. And there is a temple near me called, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a Krishna temple. So it's dedicated to Lord Krishna. And a lot of my Reiki classes were taught there. So Alexandra would invite me to the temple. We would spend time in the temple at the altar to Lord Krishna, and we would watch the priest, the Hindu priest, perform the workings with Krishna, and then we would do our class. So during that time, I got pretty close with the energy of Lord Krishna. Even when I'm talking about him now, I feel him kind of arriving in the space. But I've been reading about Krishna. I still go to the temple every once in a while. I would like to go more regularly. As I started to get acquainted with Lord Krishna, and it was all kind of intertwined with my becoming a Reiki master, I felt very strongly that I needed an altar to Krishna. So Krishna for me is very strongly associated with my Reiki practice and my healing practice and my teaching practice, because that's when he became introduced to me. So I have this little altar to Lord Krishna next to his statue, which is a beautiful statue. Next to his statue is a candle holder and a candle's in it. This candle is the same kind of candle that I have here on the center of my altar. So it's a frankincense candle, and I burn that anytime I want Krishna to be present. And a lot of the time when I perform, there's cat hair floating everywhere in the air. A lot of the time when I perform any kind of magical working, I'll invite Krishna just because he has such nice, strong, beautiful energy. And then he also has some dried flowers with him. I also have a $5 bill up there as prosperity and just as offering to Krishna. One of those incense burners that when you light the incense on top, it flows down like a river. That's another thing I got for my birthday just a few months ago. So I gave that to Krishna and some other dried flowers as well. And then I have dangling from the ceiling a bell that I bought at the Krishna temple. They have a restaurant and a little gift shoppy metaphysical shop. So I went in there one day and I bought this for my Krishna altar. So it's just beautiful, kind of hanging down and garland, and then it has a bell on the bottom. So I use that again like I use all the bells in my altar space to heighten and intensify the energy of the space. And I also use it to invoke or evoke, whichever one I'm doing, Krishna. And then on the left side of this platform is the absolute newest part of my altar. This is a part of my altar that I have dedicated to Toth. So I just recently started working with Toth, and he is a deity that is strongly associated with writing, teaching, knowledge, wisdom. So I started working with him right around the time that I started teaching classes. So shortly after I became a Reiki master, I started getting signs from Toth that he wanted to work with me. I immediately started researching him, and I found a statue for him, and I started to put his altar together. And he has been so helpful in helping me to write my curriculums for my classes and communicate with students and all these things. So I've really enjoyed working with him so far. It's only been a month or two since I set up his altar. But on his altar, I have his statue, and he's holding a little incense burner in his hand. So that's an incense burner included in his statue. And then I have a notebook that's got some ancient Egyptian art on it. And this is a notebook that was sent with the statue. So when I bought the statue, the person who shipped it to me also included for free a little notebook. So I don't have a purpose for this notebook yet, but I'm hoping that Toth will give me a purpose as time goes on. So that's up there with him. I also have a little small book that I'm going to be using as my travel book of shadows. So I'm going to include this in my travel altar that I'm putting together. And I'm going to fill it. It's an empty book. So I'm going to fill it with all the things that I need when I travel: prayers, rituals, mantras, affirmations, symbols, anything that I would need, ritual instructions, spell instructions. So that's up there with Toth, as writing and all these things are his domain. And then of course up there are some more dried flowers as well. So then moving over here on the wall, out of frame, is my Lilith altar. I have this set of wooden shelves that is attached to the wall, and on the bottom I have some herbs and some jars and some tubes that I use for various things. And then on the next level I have a mortar and pestle and some ash in a jar that I use to make black salt. And then I have essential oils that I use for my diffusers, and also sometimes I put them on my hands when I perform a healing. I love to put frankincense on my hands when I perform a healing. And then on the top shelf is my altar to Lilith. First is the statue of Lilith. This is something that I got years ago, so again, I don't remember where I got it, but it's a beautiful statue of Lilith in her cloak holding a owl. She's very strongly associated with owls, especially screeching owls. And then I have a few dried flowers, dried roses, a lot of owl feathers. I find a lot of owl feathers because of my work with Lilith, so anytime I find an owl feather, I add it to her altar. I also have a little crystal owl, again, because of Lilith's association with owls. I also have the symbol and seal of Lilith on this altar that I've written in red, because red is associated with Lilith, on a piece of paper and added to her altar. I also have a candle holder and a red candle inside it. This is for any time I work with Lilith, invoke or evoke her. I light this candle to call her into the space, and again, it's red to signify her connection to the color red and her power and her feminine power, menstrual blood, you know, all these things she's associated with. And I'm pretty sure that candle is dragon's blood, is what the candle is infused with. And then I have a little container of, it's a spell jar that I got years ago, but it's for feminine power and magical power. So I gave that to Lilith. I like to shake it up and put it down anytime that I'm working with her to kind of increase her power and my power. and the feminine energy of the space. So that's my altar to Lilith. And then moving to this area that you guys always see behind me, but we've never addressed. Behind me is my altar to Mary Magdalene. I haven't talked about Mary Magdalene too much on my channel, but I started working with Mary Magdalene years ago when I was apprenticing with a shaman. So when I was studying to become a shaman is when I first got introduced to Mary Magdalene. And the way it worked was I was learning to journey, which is a shamanic practice, and I was journeying to the upper world for the first time. And my shaman directed me to journey to the upper world with the intention of meeting a teacher. So trying to meet one of my spiritual teachers that's present for me. And when I traveled up, I met this gorgeous woman who was wearing this cloak, and for the longest time, all I could see was her, the littlest bit of her face and her eyes. And I didn't know who she was, but she had this big cauldron in front of her, and she would never speak. She would always communicate with me in other ways. And then the next time I journeyed up to visit her again, that was when she told me that she's Mary Magdalene. So from there, I started learning about Mary Magdalene and reading books about her. And she, to this day, is one of my strongest presences for me in day-to-day life. I very strongly feel her with me at all times. She helps me teach, especially on YouTube when I make videos. She helps me teach. She helps me learn. She helps me remain both a student and a teacher. And she really is, in my opinion, one of the strongest witches that has ever lived. And she helps me with my witchcraft. So that's her role for me. And so on this altar that I have for her, it's a pretty small altar. I would like to make something bigger for her because she's so present for me. But for now, this is what I have for her. So I have this little statue of Mary Magdalene, and then I also have a few feathers for her. These feathers, just for some reason, felt like they wanted to be on Mary's altar. But they have a little bit, they're black, but they have a little bit of a blue tinge to them. I also have a little angel symbol there. I have another little pentacle tile, again, representing earth, air, fire, water, spirit, and her strong witchcraft abilities. And then I have a little heart crystal. I believe this is Shiva Eye. And then I have an incense burner that I use anytime I'm calling on Mary Magdalene, or sometimes I'll burn offering to Mary Magdalene in this incense burner. I have a little cluster of amethyst, as amethyst increases psychic abilities and personal power. A little dried rose bud, and then I have a petrified wood piece on the altar, and then a couple white feathers that signify her divine spirit and her ascension to being an energy being and no longer having to be reincarnated. She's reached enlightenment. So I give her those white feathers to honor her divinity. So that's my Mary Magdalene altar. And then talking about the rest of what's on this shelf that I have on the wall right here. In the center, I have basically one decorative item and then a bunch of random spiritual tools that I use on and off. So first is this decorative cat that is so, so beautiful. I got this cat in Aruba on a trip years ago from an artist that lived there, and I put it there as decoration, but also as my representation of my strong association with cats in my spiritual practice, my strong connection to cats and cat deities. And then I have dowsing rods. These are very strong spiritual tools, dowsing rods. I got these actually at an estate sale. So these are old dowsing rods that were used by others for years, and I just purchased them. But you can use dowsing rods for divination, for finding things. And then I have a couple switchblades here. The one is able to clip to your belt, and I use it a lot for harvesting herbs and things when I'm on hikes and stuff like that. And then I also have a switchblade that was my father's. My father has died, so I have his switchblade here to connect to him. I believe it's the switchblade he used in Boy Scouts when he was a kid in the 60s and 70s. So I have that here. Not very functional, but just kind of connects me to my father and is pretty cute on the shelf too. And then I have my more recent Athame that's a switchblade. It's just a nice, practically useful switchblade. So then on the upper part, the shelf above my Mary Magdalene altar, I've just got a couple random spiritual tools. So I've got a little quartz point, my 2 little lighters that I use to light incense, candles, things like that. And then I have a small teacup for when I do tea leaf readings for myself. This teacup is only used when I do tea leaf readings. So I do not use that cup for regular just drinking tea to drink tea. I only use it when I'm doing tea leaf readings. And then moving to the left side of these shelves, this is where I have all my tarot and oracle cards. So all of the decks that I have are right here. I do have on my channel a tour of the decks that I have. I think since then I've gotten a few more decks, and not all my decks fit up here, so some of them are on the ground here, so I'll show that to you guys when we get to what's on the ground behind me also. And then moving to up here, the top part of these shelves, I have my pendulum, and I just have a simple quartz crystal pendulum. And then I have some little bits of cloth and string that I use for various spells and things. This is my travel altar cloth, this yellow and orange one here. So whenever I travel, I carry that cloth with me in my suitcase or in my bag so I can lay it down and set up my altar space no matter where I'm staying. And then I have some string that came off of a blanket that my grandmother made for me. So I didn't want to throw this string out. I just kept it because I figured it could have good magical use in a spell at some point. So I have used it a couple times. And then I have this white cloth. Quick little share about this white cloth. I have used this multiple times for different spells, and it has always generated the most amazing results. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to deplete its power. But I keep this here for use in different spells, some white cloth. And then this is just for kind of traveling. It has pockets in it, and it folds up. So it's kind of, I think it's meant for silverware, but I'll use it to kind of carry my wand, carry my athame, carry my dowsing rods, carry anything that's kind of long and skinny. So that's, this stuff is kind of miscellaneous spiritual items. And then on the top, I have over here my spirit board to communicate with any kind of energy being. I also have up here some of these little, I don't know what they're technically called, but they're these little kind of troll looking guys. I think they're meant to be symbols of good luck, like little good luck charms that you can carry with you. But I use them to guard any of the items that I use for work that is not light work. So a lot of these items up here are these 2 items right here. The spirit board and this stake that you see. We'll talk about the stake in a minute. They are both items that I use to work with entities. So these are beings of the shadow that are mischievous or chaotic or have a bit of a darker energy, and so they would cause harm or incite mischief or chaos or whatever. So I give them the job of guarding these items so that if anything were to get attached to either of these items, an entity or a shadow being, they would deal with it and it wouldn't impact me. So that's what they're charged for me. So then moving to the stake that you see next to the spirit board, this is by far the coolest thing I have ever received from Spirit. And I feel like I've said that about a lot of the things I've received from Spirit and talked about on my channel. But the story of this stake, this is something I made. There was a windstorm and a bunch of branches flew out of the trees that were in my backyard at the home I was living in at the time. And this was around the time when I was studying with that shaman that I talked about. So I was becoming a shaman, was learning about shamanic work, and my sister, it was about to be Halloween, and my sister was going to a Halloween party, and she was going to be Buffy the Vampire Slayer as her costume. So she needed a stake. So she asked me if I would whittle her a stake. So of course I said yes. And I went out after this windstorm, and I was looking at the different branches that had fallen off of the trees, and there was one that was it looked like this, but it was bigger before. So I picked this one up. I don't know why, that specific one. I just looked at it and I was like, this one will work. I brought it inside. I started using my athame to whittle away at it and form it into a stake shape. And as I was doing that, and I'll take close-up shots of this so you guys can see, but as I was doing that, I started to see beings in the wood. I started to see faces and creatures and just beings in the wood. You can see them. And again, I'll show you guys so you guys can see too. I gave it to my sister to let her use as a stake for her Halloween costume. I told her to be very careful with it and bring it back to me because it was important. She brought it back to me, and then I took it to the shaman that I was currently taking classes from at the time, and I showed it to him, and I said, "What do you think of this? You know, like, when you see this, what do you think?" And he immediately, after I handed it to him, was like, "There are faces." And I was like, "Thank you. Yes, don't you see them? Like, I see the faces." And he was like, "You should journey to talk to your guides about what this tool is for, because obviously this tool has found its way to you for a reason." So I journeyed and I asked my guides, "What is this for?" They informed me what it's for, and now it is a very big part of my practice. So that specifically is a strong tool. This stake is a strong tool for removing entities, removing chaotic beings from a space or from a person. So when I'm performing healings on people, I will, if I sense an entity in their energy field, I will use this to remove that entity. So very strong shamanic tool, this. So those are my tools that are more on the dangerous side of spirituality, where we're dealing with entities and chaotic beings, which I want to talk more about on my channel. I haven't talked too much about my work with that stuff, so that's coming soon. And then next to that, I have this little snail shell that I found, and it's important to note that when you find an empty snail shell, you should leave it. It can be someone's new home. So if it's intact, don't pick it up. I only pick up snail shells when I find them and they're broken and they're no longer usable for another snail. So this specific snail shell is a little bit broken. It's got a hole in it, so a snail wouldn't be able to repurpose it for a new home. So I found it one day, I think when I was walking my sister's dog in our neighborhood, and I just picked it up, and I use it sometimes for spells and things, spells that have to do with feeling safe in your body and having a home in your outer shell and things like that. So that's another little just magical spiritual item that can be used as a ingredient in a spell. Next to that, I have a selenite wand. So this is something I purchased when I was doing my Akashic Record studies with Linda Howe and her teachers. So selenite is very cleansing and clearing. And a big selenite wand like this is so great. If you have anxiety or intrusive thoughts or anything like that where you get very overwhelmed, then having a large selenite wand or selenite slab can be amazing. I will literally, sometimes when I'm feeling particularly bad in any kind of way, I'll just grab this selenite wand and just kind of cuddle it. It's the perfect shape for just holding it and hugging it, but it's a great healing tool, great cleansing tool. You can just kind of run it over your energy field anytime you feel like you need an energy cleanse. So that's up there, and it also has a little piece of paper next to it that has that same power animal symbol that represents my power animal. So that's up there also, another one of those symbols. And then next to that, I have a little stone that has on one side footprints, and then on the other side it says, "It was then that I carried you." This is, I believe, a Christian thing, but after my dad died, I received that stone from a distant family member as a gift, as a symbol of faith and a symbol of the fact that, you know, my dad's not gone. He's just not physically here anymore. He's somewhere else. He's in the other realms. So I really liked it. So it reminds me of faith, and I put it there as decoration, but also to sometimes use in spells, especially spells where I work with the dead or a deceased person. Then next to that, I have a tuning fork. I would love to eventually get a tuning fork for each one of the chakras. I think that would be amazing, but they're pretty expensive, so I'm going to work up to that. But this tuning fork is for the root chakra, so your base chakra all the way down at the base of your pelvis, the bottom of your spine. This tuning fork is used for that. So I use it on myself and other people when I perform healings, and it just does exactly what it sounds like it does. It balances and brings harmony to your root chakra, gets it working and flowing as it should. And then next to that is a rattle that I made myself also during my shamanic classes. So the shaman I studied with taught me how to make a lot of spiritual tools. So one of the tools I made was this rattle. Everything that I made with that shaman is ethically sourced, sustainably sourced. So the rattle part is, I believe, deer hide. The deer died of natural causes and all the parts were used. I sewed the rattle shut myself and filled it with beads and inserted the handle into it, which I don't remember what kind of wood it is. If you know your woods, then comment what kind of wood this handle on the rattle is. And then I added that little twig sideways. That was something that when you're creating a spiritual tool, you can call on your guides to show you and tell you what the tool should look like. So they showed me exactly as you see it here. This is how they showed me it should look. So I added that horizontal stick and wrapped it around with the yarn that I braided and tied. And it's got some crow feathers attached to it and beads. This is another thing they showed me. I created this rattle to connect me to my creative spirit. My creative spirit guide is a crow. So this kind of connects back to Hekate. Hekate's a big lover of art and artists and creators and creating. So this connects me to my work with Hekate, but also my creative spirit. So my creative spirit is a crow, and I learned this through my shamanic work with working in the lower world, journeying to the lower world. So this rattle was created with the purpose of my using it to connect to my creative spirit. So anytime I use it, that's me calling on my creative spirit, that crow. So the spiral on top in black paint, I did that also. That's something that my crow creative spirit showed me that it needed to have. And then moving to the wall above it, I'll show you guys some of the art I have up there because you don't really get to see it in my videos, and it is spiritual related. I have a couple wooden pieces of art that are from media but witchy related. The one is from Once Upon a Time, the TV show, and it's of Snow White, and it's a wanted poster for Snow White for crimes against the Queen and treason and murder and things. And then next to that is a wanted poster for Bellatrix Lestrange. So those are just little pieces of art I have in my spiritual area. And then next to that I have a print on canvas of Michelangelo's Last Judgment. I know I'm not Catholic, but something about this painting has always really stuck with me. I do have spiritual connection to Michelangelo, so maybe it's just that. But I first saw this painting in person when I visited the Vatican on a trip when I was a teenager, and I spent 30 minutes staring at it, and the teacher had to come back into the chapel and find me and drag me out because the whole group had moved on and I had not. So I just really love this painting. I could stare at it for 50,000 years and still be happy to continue staring at it. So I have a kind of recreation of it on my wall. Okay, so then moving to what's on the floor next to me here, behind me. First you'll see this that's sticking up here. This is a tree branch that had fallen off of a tree in Angeles National Forest. I was there one day and I found this branch and I picked it up and took it home with me. There were a lot of branches everywhere, so it's not like I took something important. There was stuff everywhere. So I took this as soon as I saw it, I felt that it had strong spiritual tool potential. So this will be getting made into something by me very soon. I think it's going to be used as a wand or a kind of healing tool. So that's what that's going to be. That's in the works. And then on the floor here, I have a little pouch. This has my claromancy kit in it. So this is, I made a video about claromancy if you want to check that out. But this has my little claromancy kit in it. So it's got a bunch of little items in it. And I use this for divination. So this is down on the ground here. I also have here another chalice. So I have a crystal chalice here. The one that I have on the altar is more goldeny brass. This one's clear crystal. So sometimes I use this chalice, sometimes I use that chalice, depends what I'm doing. Then I also have my besom down here, or broom. Besoms are a great spiritual tool for cleansing and clearing, so I use that quite often for that. I have that kept on the floor because it doesn't fit anywhere else. It's pretty big. And then behind that, I have my personal astrological calendar for the year. This is something that I purchased online. I believe I was introduced to it somewhere on the internet. Someone was talking about how they have this, but it's this cool, and I'll link it down below. So this is a cool program online where you put in your birth date and time, and it creates a whole calendar for you that is specifically for you and your astrological chart. So it takes into account not only where the planets are on a given day or month or week, but also how that affects you and your specific astrological chart. So I'm still learning how to read all of this. Astrology is something that goes right over my head most of the time, but I'm working on reading this, and I'm very into the planets and space and things and the stars. So I'm starting to kind of dip my toe in the astrology pool and learn how to use this. So this helps me plan my rituals and spells to make sure that they're the most effective for me. And then here, like I said, not all my tarot and oracle cards fit here. So I've got more on the floor here. I've got this movie tarot deck and the Halloween oracle deck. I've also got my Pokemon cards from when I was a kid. I like to use those as a oracle deck sometimes. Gretel's here, she's listening. Come over here and show everyone your Cyclops spirit. And then I also have a prayer to St. Francis over here. This is something, again, I said at the beginning of the video, I'm working on setting up an altar to St. Francis. Being that I'm not Catholic, I never once thought I would have an altar to a saint. But when I moved into the home that I live in now, there was on the windowsill necklace to St. Francis. So I found that when we moved in. The house was empty except for that. It was on the windowsill in the dining room of this house. And I was like, oh, okay, so St. Francis is kind of making himself known to me. And then as I was walking around the neighborhood one day, I started to notice that there were a lot of statues to St. Francis in my neighborhood, in people's yards and gardens and things. So that was interesting. And then when I finished my Reiki studies and I became a Reiki master, when my Reiki master sent me my diploma in the mail, she also sent me this piece of paper, this prayer to St. Francis. And I had never talked to her about St. Francis or how St. Francis had started to make himself known to me. This is one of those things where clearly this was a message that she was giving me from St. Francis. Like, she didn't even know. It's kind of like how a lot of the times my videos or my teachings are used for you all to find your path and your messages from deities and things. Same thing happened here with this. So this is a prayer to St. Francis that I will probably add to the St. Francis altar that will be downstairs in my home. But for now, it's right here until I get a frame for it. And then next to that is a little lantern that I have. I use this lantern just for exactly what it is meant for, as a lantern. It's got a candle in it, candle holder, and a candle in it. So you can light it and kind of carry it around like a Victorian woman in your home in the darkness. I don't really do that, but I have used it when I do Deipnon and I can't see, because I don't like to use artificial light when I do ritual at night. So I use that lantern as a lantern. And then next to that is my Book of Shadows. Never gonna show this to you guys. Sorry. But this is my big Book of Shadows. A lot of it is blank right now. It's a work in progress. It'll be a work in progress for the rest of my life. But that's my Book of Shadows, big boy Book of Shadows. And then in the corner, tucked away behind my altar, between my altar table and the wall, are some more of my spiritual instruments. So first, I've got this branch that I, again, got during a windstorm. It's very windy here in Southern California, in case you haven't noticed a theme. But this is another thing that I saw on the ground had fallen during a storm, and I immediately thought that has potential to be a spiritual tool. So I haven't made this into anything yet, but the way it looks like a hand right here made me feel like it could be used in healing practice, similarly to the stake that I showed you guys, with removing harmful things and reaching into the energy field of a person. So this will get made into something soon. Its purpose is not fully known yet to me. but it's awaiting its purpose. And then moving on to the instruments I have, back here I just have 2 drums. This drum, and you have probably seen it on my channel before, but this drum is a drum that I made. It's made from elk hide, again, sustainably sourced. The elk died of natural causes, and all of the parts were used. So this drum I made myself with the help of the shaman that trained me. He walked me through it and provided me with the supplies and everything. This drum has the intention of being a healing drum and a teaching drum. So I use this to teach people to journey. I use this to heal people's energy fields. I made the beater also. This is also hide that was ethically sourced and wood that was ethically sourced. And it's stuffed with animal fur and animal hair. Again, ethically sourced. So this is my baby. This is my beautiful, beautiful drum that I'm so proud of. And I've said in this video and in previous videos, I have no problem showing people things, but I don't like people touching things. Again, everybody's different, but I do not like my spiritual tools to be touched by anyone other than me. So this is especially one of the things that if anybody ever tried to touch this, I would probably scream. But that being said, if you could touch it, you'd be amazed because it has such amazing energy. Like sometimes I just hug it. I hug it this way though because the healing comes out through the binding. Even now I feel the energy of the elk that so graciously gave its hide to create this beautiful drum. Yeah, and just the process of making it myself creates such a strong energetic spiritual connection between me and the drum because I touched this hide when it was still skin. You know, like I stretched the hide over the drum frame. I tied it, I created it, and I charged it with the energy that I wanted it to have. So this is my beautiful drum. Love him very much. And then back there, and I won't pick it up, I'll just take a shot of it to show you guys. Back there I also have a normal Remo drum. So this is just a normal, it's shaped like this, good for journeying and stuff. I got that before I made this. So when I first started doing shamanic journeys and things, I wanted a drum to be able to use, but I wasn't ready to make my own yet. So I got that drum. I think I just purchased it online. Just a standard Remo drum made out of artificial materials. So that's easy to pick up if you want a drum for yourself for spiritual work. But I don't use that one as much anymore because I have this one that I made. But I use that one sometimes to give to other people so they can drum and practice. And sometimes if I'm traveling somewhere and I want a drum but I don't want to bring my beautiful baby here, I'll just bring that one because I'm not as worried about that one getting damaged or anything. Versus this one, if something happened to this, I would scream and cry. So those are my drums. So then, last bit, moving to underneath my altar. I have some storage under here. First thing is this massive pot. I use it as a cauldron. So I will burn things in here, use it for larger candles, and right now you'll see I have the remnants of a spell that I did a few weeks ago where I was burning little bits of paper. So I use this anytime I'm doing bigger things that need a bigger cauldron. Like I said, I have that small cauldron on my altar, but sometimes that's just too small and I need a bigger cauldron. So I use this to make things and destroy things, just like a womb. And then also under my altar, I have a bunch of different scarves and altar cloths. So like I said, I like to change these out every season. So I'll clean my altar, take everything off of it, and change the scarf to be whatever the season calls for. So I usually use a blue one for Yule and winter. I use the tan one a lot for summer and fall. And sometimes for Samhain times and Mabon times, I will use this black and gold one or the purple one. I use the purple one a lot, just kind of like a catch-all if they're all dirty and I need a new one. But the purple one kind of works for any season. And then this pink one I have on right now is great for spring. So this is my spring iteration of my altar. But I keep these underneath the altar for when I need to change out the scarf. Making stuff fall. Ooh, a cat whisker. I just found a cat whisker. Can you tell? My hand's too white. My hand's the same whiteness as the cat whisker. Oh God. I also have under my altar my cloak. So this is the cloak I have. It's just a plain black cloak with some buttons to close it up if you want to close it up. But I wore this in my one Depnon vlog. I use this not too often. I use it a lot when I'm like alone and I'm in my room doing ritual and I just want to wear, and I wear the cloak as a means of channeling my most powerful self. But I use the cloak when I perform Depnon at a crossroads, when I walk to the crossroads, use it for ritual practice, and I keep it under my altar. I also have under my altar some things that I won't show you guys, but I'll tell you they're there. I won't show you because they're not pretty. But under my altar, I also have some extra candles and extra candle holders. I also have empty spray bottles that I use to make, that I use when I make sprays, make agua de Florida. And there's a video about how to make sprays and things coming soon, so we're going to talk about that more. But I keep those empty bottles under here. I also have some extra salt and some crystal grid boards. But this is one of my crystal grid boards. So sometimes when I do a crystal grid, I'll lay this out and lay the crystals on top. This one particularly is for love and prosperity, abundance, and fertility. So fertility in all things. So having a fertile life and a fertile experience of humanity and connection with others. So I bought this specifically for love. So then this cart over here that is usually out of frame or mostly out of frame. First thing is I have all my waters up here. I also have all my prayer candles to different famous people. So I've got a Freddie Mercury one, I've got a Stephen Hawking one, and I have a Bianca Del Rio one. So I'll use those for different things when I'm doing different spells, depending on what I'm doing. And then I also have some of my sprays here. I did not make all of these. Some of them I made, some of them I didn't. So they all have different properties. Some are for healing, some are for love, some are for brightening your energy field, some are for protection. And then I also have some tarot cards that I've made. So these are things that I've made over time. And I made one on my channel once when I did an at-home Depnon live stream. So those are there. I also have some containers, and I won't show you what's in the containers that I use to hold little spiritual tools. So this one box has my original tarot deck in it, the first tarot deck I ever bought. So that tarot deck is special for me. And so I keep it in that container. I've also got this little cabinet, and this just holds a collection of random little spell ingredients and items that I use in spiritual work. And then under that, I have my Reiki box. I got this box at the same place I got this little multicolored cat. So in Aruba, I got it from an artist, and it is a secret box. So you have to know how to open it to get it open. It's got a secret compartment. So I use that for Reiki. If I'm sending people Reiki, I will use that box to send them that Reiki. And if you want to know more about how that works, you gotta study Reiki with me in my classes. And then the next shelf underneath that has all my incense, some more extra candles, and just random catch-all kind of shelf. And then under that, I've got some more extra candles, shocker, and extra crystals and things. So I've got 2 containers. One of them has extra candles in it, and the other one has a bunch of crystals in it. And then next to that, I have a big metal kind of briefcase looking thing. It's a case for a crystal harp. So I'll show you guys. I haven't gotten to use it too much. I've used it on myself quite a bit, but it's a healing tool. I purchased it as a healing tool. Each one of the crystal pieces is connected to a different chakra. So you can play it to align your chakra field. So again, I haven't used it much on other people, but I've used it on myself. And it's so amazing. It's something I've been wanting for years, and I bought it for myself as a Yule gift this past year. So I've been really enjoying it. And then in this big basket I told you guys about that's way out of frame that you guys have never seen, I got this basket from an estate sale. And I use this as kind of my catch-all spiritual tools basket. So in it, I've got some extra journals that I have yet to fill, future mirror books, I guess you could say, some crystal bowls that I use for spiritual work, Reiki blankets that I use a lot, different statuary and things that I don't have a place for or that I plan to do giveaways with. So this basket really just is my catch-all. I don't know where to put this, so I'm putting it in here kind of thing. So that's where I put any overflow for spiritual items and tools that I have. I'll put them in there. Okay, so I feel like I've been talking for 50 years, but that is my whole spiritual space toured for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you made it to this point, bless you. Thank you for watching, and thank you for requesting this video. I hope it didn't disappoint, and you guys enjoyed touring my spiritual space, my witchy space. Remember, you can become a member of my channel to get access to exclusive members-only perks like early access to videos and getting to vote in exclusive members-only polls where you decide what video I make next. So hit that join button down below if you want to become a member of my channel. Don't forget to subscribe and become a part of this little group of seedlings that we have. And give this video a like if you enjoyed seeing my sacred space. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Blessed be. Oh god. Labels wobble and they do fall down.